Let me tell you about a Tuesday evening that I'm not proud of. I was sitting on my bathroom floor, not dramatically, just sitting there, going through someone's Instagram for the third time that day. Someone who, by the way, had not texted me back in 6 days. 6 days. And you know what's wild? I wasn't even angry. I was just trying to figure out what I did wrong. Meanwhile, my phone had 3 unread messages from someone perfectly kind, perfectly available, perfectly interested, and I hadn't opened a single one. And I remember thinking, what is wrong with me? But here's the thing nobody tells you, and I mean nobody, not your friends, not your mom, not the therapist you've been thinking about booking for 8 months. The reason you keep doing this has nothing to do with bad taste, it has nothing to do with low standards, and it has absolutely nothing to do with being broken. It has to do with how you were wired long before you ever went on a first date. And hey, if you've been here before, quietly subscribe. I'll explain why in about 90 seconds, and I promise it'll make you feel slightly less like a walking disaster. Here is why it keeps happening. 1. Your body doesn't recognize love without a little chaos. If you grew up in an environment where love came with conditions, where affection was inconsistent, where you had to earn closeness rather than just receive it, your body quietly filed that away as what love feels like, not what love is, what it feels like. So when someone safe shows up, someone who texts back, someone who says what they mean, your body doesn't light up. It gets a little bored because calm doesn't register as exciting. It registers as unfamiliar, and unfamiliar to a body trained on uncertainty feels like something must be wrong. The anxious chase, the waiting, the 3-hour conversations about what they meant by that's you feeling at home in a house that was never fully your own. Number 2, you're not addicted to the person, you're addicted to the thrills with this person. There's a reason slot machines are more addictive than guaranteed payouts. It's called variable reward. The unpredictable hit is far more compelling than the certain one. When someone is unavailable, every small moment of connection feels enormous. They replied. They laughed at your joke. Your brain dumps dopamine like it just won something. The available person, they reply every time. No suspense. Your brain doesn't get the same rush, so you label the available person boring and the unavailable one magnetic. You're not attracted to them, you're attracted to the hit. 3. You're trying to win a game that already ended. Psychologists call it repetition compulsion. We unconsciously recreate familiar emotional dynamics in our adult relationships, not because we want to suffer, but because somewhere deeper than logic, we believe this time we can get a different ending. The unavailable partner isn't a coincidence. They're a casting choice. Not one you made consciously, but one your body made on your behalf, convinced that this time you'll finally get the person to stay. I had a friend who spent 4 years in a situationship with a man who told her on date 1 that he wasn't ready for a relationship. And every time I asked her why she stayed, she said, I just feel like if I could get him to choose me, it would mean something. And it would, just not what she thought. 4. You confuse emotional intensity for emotional depth. Intensity is not intimacy. The relationship that has you up at 3 a.m. isn't necessarily the most meaningful one. Real depth is quieter. It looks like someone who remembers what scared you last October. It looks like choosing someone back without making them beg for it. But if you've spent most of your emotional life in high-tension situations, quiet depth doesn't read as love, it reads as flatness. 5. You've been taught that love has to cost you something. Somewhere along the line, a quiet lie got installed, that love which comes easily isn't really love, that you have to work for it, that the struggle proves it's real. A 2020 study from the University of Toronto found that people with anxious attachment styles consistently rated relationships that required more emotional effort as more meaningful, even when those relationships produced less satisfaction. The brain literally scores love by how hard it was to get. That's not romantic, that's just a really old habit dressed up in poetry. Number 6. The person you're chasing isn't who you think they are. You're rarely falling for the actual person, you're falling for the version of them you've built in the spaces they leave empty. The calls they don't make become mystery. The walls they put up become depth. What you're in love with is your own imagination wearing their face. Now listen, if this is landing somewhere specific right now, that's okay. Your brain learned a lot of rules in an environment you didn't choose. The work isn't beating yourself up, it's just noticing. Also, if you want more of this without having to go looking, the subscribe button is right there. Just press it and pretend it was your idea. Now here is what you can actually do about it. Knowing why you do it is only half the work. Here's the other half. And I'm not going to dress it up as a 5-step program because real change is slower and messier than that. But it does start somewhere. 1. Name the pattern out loud, every single time. Not in a punishing way, but in a noticing way. When you catch yourself checking their profile for the 4th time or rehearsing a text you're not going to send, just say it, out loud or in your head. I'm doing this habit again. That tiny bit of distance between realization and change is where everything starts. You can't change what you can't see, and most people in this pattern are so deep in it they've mistaken it for just who they are. 2. Take note about this familiar feeling, not just the person. Next time you feel that magnetic pull towards someone who's giving you very little, pause and ask yourself, what does this remind me of? This is not to go deep on therapy dive in the middle of a coffee date, but just to gently notice if this feeling has a history. Because usually it does. And once you can see the old blueprint underneath the new situation loses a little of its grip. 3. Practice being calm without running from it. This is the one people skip because it sounds too simple. But if your body has been wired to read calm as danger, then the actual work is learning to sit in it without creating drama to fill the silence. When someone kind shows up and nothing feels urgent, don't manufacture urgency. Don't test them. Don't pull back to see if they'll chase. Just let it be easy. Let yourself notice that easy is safe, not boring. That takes practice. Real, ongoing, slightly awkward practice. 4. Stop trying to earn what should be freely given. This one is less of a technique and more of a slow internal shift. It's the moment you genuinely stop believing that love is something you have to win, that you don't have to be funnier, smaller, more patient, more impressive, more available just to get someone to stay. Some people get there through therapy, some through a relationship that accidentally showed them what safe feels like, some through just getting exhausted enough by the pattern that they finally stop. However you get there, it counts. 5. Give the boring one a real chance, just once. Not because they're boring, but because you've been calling them boring based on a nervous system that doesn't know the difference between calm and empty yet. The person who texts back, who shows up, who doesn't make you guess, that's not a lack of spark. That's just what it looks like when someone's actually interested. Give it a few dates before your body decides there's nothing there. You might be surprised what you've been leaving on the table. So now, if any of this resonated, really resonated, then maybe the most useful thing you can take from this is permission. Permission to stop calling it bad luck. It was never luck. It was a pattern, and patterns can be unlearned. Permission to stop romanticizing unavailability. Someone being hard to reach is not a personality trait. It's just someone being unavailable. Permission to let someone be kind to you without immediately wondering what's wrong with them. The love that's worth having doesn't make you feel like a contestant. It doesn't require you to audition. It just shows up. And you are allowed to want that, not as a consolation prize, as the whole point. This channel covers the psychology of how we love, how we think, and how we get in our own way, the way research actually sees it, not the way self-help culture packages it into 5-step programs with inspirational fonts. If you want content that explains why you are the way you are without making you feel like a project that needs fixing, subscribe. The next one might be the piece you've been trying to put into words for years.